Today, Papa, as we pressing down on this boom, you bless him this meeting. You bless him on talk go come. Bless him Prime Minister Blomipla, the Deputy Prime Minister, all the members long Parliament, Opposition Leader, Deputy Opposition Leader, all ministers. Now all the people we all established chamber. Now display harim long radio. Now look lo television on today. Papa want him talk Mipla make him. And we must clear a long way where all people understand him. Na look sabe that want him display government, na display leadership long today. And we walk him long service. We go along on people Blomipla long display country. Papa, you bless him speaker long special way. One time acting speaker, I'm sitting now no see all this morning, no special way. All who sat, all is sick, long namerlo mipla, Papa, you help him mipla. All who sat, all he got all court petitions, Papa, you help him all too. Now all who sat, he got all issues, well he need lo straight him, Papa, you help him mipla too. Thank you. Mipla no height lo I blue Papa. Yet look him, all get something mipla make him. Or sem tasor na mipla must make him leadership and be transparent and be accountable. Long I blow you past him, na long I blow people blow mipla. Thank you, Papa. Bless him this bong tete. Mipla ask him this prayer. Lo name Lord Jesus. And me Lord, Master and Savior blow mipla. Him say him Lord's prayer now. Our Father,
which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive them that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power and glory, forever and ever. Amen. Honorable members, I wish to acknowledge the presence of the public gallery of teachers and students of Inavabui Primary School in Kairiku District, Central Province, and teachers and students of Paradise High School, the National Capital District. On behalf of the Parliament, I extend the visitors a warm welcome to Parliament. Notices, petitions. Honourable members, question time. Honourable members, yesterday the chair have recognized member for Yalibu Pangia on his supplementary. Honourable member, I will not ask you to. I will not recognize your question as supplementary because we are in the new day of Parliament. You will ask that as a fresh question to the relevant minister.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. Thank you, Acting Speaker. And I feel like Edim more question go Minister of Labour and Employment. Miyam Mastro also maybe ministry because good person government he recognize him all Mary population inside the country. Blow you mean at least you may got one Mary inside the cabinet and me good person. So be like congratulating member blow right cost, law display appointment blend. Na good play enthusiasm and karmikam blow display work where I'm like creating more employment blow people blow me inside the country. So me like Edim question blow not blow brother member law minister where me to talk law try looks him back plan the job or plan the foreigners work looks him inside the country and me good blow start. Now, too, me like encourage him, Minister, lo support him, all businesses inside the country, blow you me. Lo come up strong, now we can create more opportunity, lo create more work opportunities, blow all Manbury, blow you me inside the country. Lo this person, me like talk of them. Minister, you saw also plan the businesses still needing technical or experience man outside come inside na alwi more work blow inside the country blow me. Me play harem also plan the work permit application. Work lo go pass na staff lo department blow you lo plan the week na plan the moon. Na emi current plan the heavy come inside the business sector and the private sector where only needing this technical assistance na workman mary lo kirapim work na running business blow. Inap lo minister I talks away lo yumi also by look inside lo desla na try lo sort him time lo assess him qualification working more desla approval so sort him time he come inside lo mipla like before try lo carry him come lo 2 weeks or 1 moon that's play me good plus short time and number 1 question blow me number 2 question me like sawe lo tintin blow minister where you may saw approving more work blow missionary is a work lo plan di lo boost inside lo country blow you me plan di blow mibla lo boost usai di representing population lo deslap mibla pining mo sem plan di blow missionary blow you me only work lo give more plan di hard time lo sim approval lo time mo likam na work lo desla 1 all boost where online blow you me too less lo golen only providing teaching services, only providing pastoral services, only providing healthcare services. So me like him, minister, talks about some one priority by giving, make him souls and make him easy, all this like missionary, who said like come help him community blow you me and people blow you me. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker.
The Honourable Minister for Labour.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. Mi amamas lo askim lo member lo yalu bupangia na lo tupla askim blongem first lo is lo delay long work permits one time long priority long missionary workers will serve especially remote rural areas so me in charge of labor and employment Sampla lo lisla function em stop yet aninit lo immigration where em stop wantem narapla minister at the moment. So me by liaise wantem narapla minister in charge of immigration work permit and in the subsequent days by me give him answer blo ask him blo member blo yali bupangia. Thank you, Chair.
The Honourable Member for Northeast. Must be noticed.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. Before me asking question, me like to thank you, Lord Tupla Minister, Minister of Bougainville Affairs, na Defense, long go down the Bougainville, one I'm Defense was Team Blongen. Acting Speaker, M1 historical humanitarian mission that all accomplish him. So me also, we must talk on behalf of me Olgara Lodisla Plural Parliament, law country as a whole. Constant Blomi had point me also. Investigate PNG BC. BSP, now you may call him. The only largest bank of people of Papua New Guinea. My question without notice is directed to Treasury, the Treasurer, Finance, the Prime Minister must also take note. The bank declared 1 billion profit in 2022. But yet the services only providing is not to the standard. Interest rate blow 200 too much. So what are we doing as a government? Because the moment we put in 500 kina in the bank account, after 6 months it's gone. and that 1 billion kina net profit, I want to ask myself, all working one money lo one up. Where are the source of income? From the capital investment that they invest from the money of our small people, SME, and micro SME people. The rate, every time when the check is dishonored, the drawer pay 50 kina, and the payee also pay 50 kina dishonor fee. Acting Speaker, from my point of view, this bank, I mean, saving interest flow legally man marry blame country. The question is that when are they going to come and provide affordable and more convenient bank by saving mortgage interest flow, you mean? Low bank too, 90% of our people have got no access to the bank, BSP. Bank of Papua New Guinea Financial Analysis, na supervisory unit last year they said, all directors, all the kids in big plaro. Can we be more detailed and provide him names of all these directors, getting big sum of loan from the small people? Number 3, cost and blooming emotion. The unaccounted money in the bank today in established SME in people is almost 12 billion as of 2020. Now I'm in Minnesota. Probably they got scared to go to the bank because the fee over the time at the end of the day 10,000 by adding interest you want them get 10,000 will come down. So my question, third question is that are we going to set up another bank to give our SME, micro SME people fair chance of doing money and that unaccounted cash has to be banked? So those are the difficulties that all Papua New Guinea and all legally man Mary facing. So big question now, are we going to set up an inquiry, independent inquiry, led by Bank of Papua New Guinea to investigate BSP? And triple question below me. And that's for the national interest, Acting Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Treasurer.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the honourable member for his interest with the Bank of South Pacific and how our government can continue to help our people trading, and especially our smaller people that live in the rural areas. Can I immediately assure the honourable member and members of this House that our government acknowledges the frustrations that are faced by customers of all of our commercial banks, not just the BSP, over high interest rates that he's concerned with, and of course high interest rates. Mr. Speaker, despite our government being the largest shareholder of the Bank of South Pacific, with about a total of 24% equity, and despite the government being BSP's largest customer by far, we do not have direct control of the Bank of South Pacific, and we don't even have representation on its board of directors as we should have. So as a customer of the bank. We certainly understand these frustrations. I want to also add and explain that monetary policy can have a direct influence on interest rates through an instrument we call the KFR, or Kina Facility Rate. But monetary policy authority was taken away from the Minister for Treasury about 22, 23 years ago and given to the Bank of Papua New Guinea back in 2001. And this is an important explanation. So together with those reforms in that year, the central bank became an independent organization that no longer directly reported to the Minister for Treasury. So unfortunately, the government, our government, has no direct control over the commercial banks, including BSP, that would allow directives to control interest rates and even bank fees that commercial banks like BSP charge today. And I know the answer is very frustrating, especially given the backdrop of a record $1 billion plus profit last year. But I would be pleased to continue advocating for the concerns you've raised. In relation to your second question on allegations that board members have been giving themselves very, very large loans, and this is especially frustrating for all of us in this House and our people, given that some 98% of our population still don't have access to a bank account, therefore don't have access to loans. I do recall some statements issued by FASU back in 2021 on allegations related to certain breaches of our anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing laws by the Bank of South Pacific. And can I say it is very important that this process is independent and that there is no interference by government, and that FASU is able to continue its work in this particular area. At the time, if I recall correctly, in a public statement, I said I was pleased with the measured and detailed reports set out by FASU, and I have yet to receive the outcomes of those investigations. So I will follow up with the central bank and request a detailed brief as you required and requested, including those concerns that certain loans were made to members of the board of directors and companies they own, and hopefully I'll be able to table them as soon as practical. On your last question, are there any plans for a new bank? I'll give that question, refer that question to the appropriate minister with oversight. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Opposition Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. My series of questions without notice is to the Prime Minister. Mr. Acting Speaker, I must commend the Prime Minister for admitting something that many of us have also been observing with concern, and that is that the economy is not creating new jobs. It is by recognizing a problem that we can start to look for solutions. Yesterday we also heard from the Minister for Labour and Employment that we have an employment crisis in the country. Mr. Acting Speaker, one of the major contributor to this problem is the rural-urban migration that has been building up steadily over the last 2 decades or so. Many of our people from our rural areas are moving into towns and cities, but have very little education or skills, but who are looking for a better life. The settlements are overcrowded. There is a rise in homelessness, with families living in drains, behind shops and supermarkets, at Boroko, for instance. And the number of street beggars and street kids, children, are on the rise, and who are not in school.
The Honourable Prime Minister.
All right, thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. May I pass them through, acknowledging good luck question from the opposition leader. He is very much qualified to ask these sort of questions, and I just want to appreciate the questions that he put to us. But before having said this, let me acknowledge the students, our children who are in the public galleries with us. Thank you for their presence. We are in this work. Hopefully the work we do can culminate in passing a better country that you will be living on as you are in your life going forward. The issues raised by the opposition leader is a contemporary concern and issues that face our country. In fact, in our government caucus this morning, Mr. Acting Speaker, we do apologize for coming in late. But conversation that was very much centered around these issues that the opposition leader has raised. We in this side of the House, though we have big numbers, all the leaders on my side are never silent. In our own government caucus, they raise these strong issues, matters relating to law and order, matters relating to employment, matters relating to the economy, matters relating to encroaching on another tribe or another person's right. We here, though over 100 in numbers we have never bought their silence. They address these issues, and Mr. Speaker, we arrived late in the chambers because those issues were being discussed also in our government caucus. On the issue of Vagrancy Act, Mr. Acting Speaker, the law is in place. police have been tasked to look into this aspect of the law, and not only the Vacancy Act, but every other laws we have. We have laws in our country, but unfortunately, policing of these laws has fallen short. Policing of these laws have fallen short over many, many years. And, we blame police, but we also, blame the society and blame all ourselves, and blame government. Government today and governments of past also in not consistently ramping up support to the full law and justice sector. Police, magistrate services, the judiciary, and as I was saying the other time, we acknowledge the past mistakes, but we have to correct today and going forward into the future to secure that safety we want for our people. And so Vacancy Act, as well as every other sister laws that administer and provide a framework that should govern our safety, well-keep is being looked at by the police. Police has been tasked, as well as the Minister for Justice has been also tasked to look into this in totality. Deputy Prime Minister, as chair of the social sector ministers, has been working hard to put a hand on this matter, so there's some progress on this. Let me report to this House through this question, Mr. Acting Speaker, that in the judiciary space, we're looking at ramping up the judiciary, and there's a reform going on right now based on recommendation by the judiciary on a three-tier higher court system, separating the National Court and elevating Supreme Court to be on its own higher, implanting an appeals court in between, and the President AG is working very hard to recruit in 20 more new judges to clear up the backlog that is happening in our system because of limited number of judges. And the judges that we want to bring in are not just judges found from within. With respect to senior lawyers we have in our country, if they are available, good, but we want to look at judges from outside. In similar judiciaries we have in the region and further abroad in the Commonwealth. We're looking at 20 more new judges to come in. And hopefully by the time we are progressing this year, next year, the separation between the lower court, the higher courts take place, National Court on its own, Supreme Court on its own, and Appeals Court that comes in, and we start to ensure that the court structures are in place. Magistrate services linking up to the higher courts. Mr. Acting Speaker, I am saying this simply because all of this needs to be looked in totality. You cannot just ramp up police and to ensure that they police the Vacancy Act and they police the other laws that govern the upkeep of our law and order. Lawbreakers, ultimately, at the end of the day, or in every day going forward, lawbreakers must go into the prosecutions. At the moment, the whole law and justice sector system is functioning, but it's not functioning to maximum total or functioning effectively. Resource lacking, structures are inappropriate, structures we're carrying are structures that is fit for the economy and the country in the 70s and 80s and maybe early 90s. Today we have a population that is easily above 10 million. We have a population that has, of the 10 million, the employment space has not improved in a big space. Super majority of our youths who leave school at all levels, leave school at the high school levels or leave school at the colleges, still do not have adequate, meaningful employment and engagements, and so that has left room for lawlessness to creep amongst us. And I want to assure this House through this question, whilst we look at the Vacancy Act, we want to assure the opposition leader, it's not just the Vacancy Act, but the entire full gamut of the law and justice sector space has been looked upon to ensure we don't have a piecemeal approach, but a holistic approach that secures the framework of law enforcement, law policing, and law upkeep in our country, not just for today, but going forward. I want to also indicate that to the youths in our society, your government has not been silent. The issues of unemployment has been recognized upfront since we took office in 2019. That is why when I, for instance, in my public engagements, and by the way, one instance when I met what was a noble group of Papua New Guineans emerging called the think tanks. Today it has been depleted. Many of those them have run away, but it has now become an empty tank of one or two loud marching society. You know, Mr. Acting Speaker, when I visited them, I told them, we have no free money to hand out. They gave me a submission of 2 million kina. I did indicate to them, I can pick this, but we have no free money to hand out. You work and earn your money. Government, and that time I committed 200 million kina every year to SME through the banking, or the lenders we have like the banks. We've stick to our side of the bargain. We put unfailingly in 2020, 200 million distributed to NDP and BSP because they were lending and they're willing to partner us in concessional lending in country. Below 6% long-term period. Mr. Acting Speaker, this is to ensure that those out there in society who want to participate in growing the economy, because we saw from there and then that we cannot talk about development if we do not grow the economic base. Government just can't be the big spender in the economy. The economy base must be broadened, bigger, diversified, and people must run with growing the economy, not paper pushers in Waigani. Those who, for instance, have depleted the 230 million kina National Alliance-led government set for agriculture, and many other government allocations that has been depleted off by paper pushers in Waigani, like those who've been submitting for 2 million and 3 million that I refused. That has no merit whatsoever and that is not anchored for everybody benefit except one or two. Mr. Acting Speaker, growing the economy, getting our people engaged in all sectors is the way to go for us. And our budget since 2020 has been structured in a way to grow the economy. You look at the Connect PNG program, Mr. Acting Speaker. Connect PNG program is about opening up all parts of our country so that agricultural potential can be unlocked, fisheries potential unlocked, forestry potentials unlocked. But Mr. Acting Speaker, in between, the 300 or so contractors we're managing right across, at the districts, at the provinces, and at the national government. The 300 contractors, Mr. Acting Speaker, if you calculate, you know as a chairman of your own DDA, you have a contractors that are running at the district level. They employ minimum, possibly at 50 person per contract. You do your simple mathematics, if 50 person per contract is engaged, that's a 15,000 people engaged by government policy intervention through that allocation space. So I'm just trying to give you an indication, Mr. Acting Speaker, to summarize. Long-term employment creation is this government's focus, and any government that will come after me will be reminded that employment creation must be made. The medium-term plan that we have mounted very recently focuses to create 1 million new jobs. You asked me where it will come from. Of course, we are focused on delivering Papua LNG construction. It is running now. We focus on delivering Pogra re-startup. At the moment, re-employed 1,500 people back in Pogra already. We focus on ensuring that PNG construction and development comes after at the back of Papua, and Wafi Golpu construction comes on top. But Mr. Speaker, guess what, as Acting Speaker? Even if the 5 projects we are running today by my government, Papua to delivery, PNG, Wafi Golpu, Pogra re-startup, and Pasca, amongst others that will come on. Mr. Acting Speaker, and the country, can I tell you all something? These 5 projects will not be employing the 1 million people. These 5 projects maximum will be employing possibly 15,000 only. Our universities and colleges are not producing only 5,000, 6,000 a year. They're producing over 30,000 young people out into the labor force, potential labor force every year. And we need to go big, big. That is why I've been a missionary and advocate of agriculture and rural-based economy. Because easily, 70% of our families are still in the rural enclaves. They already own land. The Connect PNG will unbundle the land for them, and we link them to the lending programs we have. They can come in and work in the agricultural space, tourism space, downstream forestry space, and the fishery sector space that we're looking on. Mr. Acting Speaker, this question deserves a full response, and I don't want to dilute the question time of other leaders and the answer that they will get. Maybe I should take this question, look into it, because it deserves a good answer. And the country must be assured that we are sensitive to this issue. Lawlessness as a result of unengaged youth. We put into place program, and all ministers in the various sector that deals with the program to engage our youths are working. Mr. Speaker, if you don't mind, I can reserve a right to have a full response to his questions, which is a very good question, a fundamental question that really is the reason why this government, any government, should exist. And I want to give assurance, as Connect PNG opens up, that should not encroach onto other custom and culture and people. The Minister of Planning did inform very well yesterday that look at Ley and Morobe. The landowner rights are preserved that Morobe and Ley has been interfacing with Highlands for the rest of the last 48 years, and will be for the rest of the time we live on planet Earth. Last 48 years they have coexisted. The rights of our traditional and indigenous people are preserved in law. It is just us not enforcing the law, and the conversation looking at Vagrancy Act and enforcement of law is something that we're waking up on. So when roads open up, rights of indigenous people, rights of landowners, rights of every other Papuan is not encroached as you work to ensure we modernize the economy and integrate the economy. Mr. Speaker, I want to reserve my right to picking up his questions, have a full look into it, indicate to the opposition and indicate to this House and to the country what we're doing in respect to opening up PNG, growing the economy, creating employment, and keeping our country safe from lawlessness. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Governor for Western.
Thank you, through Mr. Speaker. You recognize my people of the Western Province. Acting Speaker, thank you, through. Me like also taking the opportunity to welcome him also Martin Rojmi Sinananda Lokalari. Welcome lo Parliament play you na lo mi pla. Me like directive the question lo mi go Minister of State-owned enterprise. This la question before me skip the question. Me like talk thank you lo national government lo support him all initiatives lo mi kirabim back town lo mi lo daru. Now some lo work lo come up. Na me like talk thank you national government lo support lo national government. Na tu this la question em lo kirabim work lo place lo town lo mi lo daru. For the last 20 years or so, power has been on the big issue, island Lomi, and we've been working tirelessly to see if we can bring light on the island. Now, recently there was an installment of one megawatt power of generator being assisted by DFED. Now, through the partnership from the PNG STV, only put in another 1 megawatt of solar power on the island. Now I'm carrying total power supply on the island. I'm some 3 megawatt power. We have enough power on the island to supply the whole of the little town. Unfortunately, last year PNG Power one time Southwest DDA been signing power purchase agreement. Na mila project gaman mila put in money lo buying diesel fuel lo time power PNG Power in buying fuel mila put fuel. Unfortunately, the town is still blackout. So mila asking Minister mila got on the case in point lo kiunga we mila just providing power lo town I'm not sagat plenty experience lo blackouts. Now, at the moment, we are increasing our power supply from the town up along the highway that's going to be sealed. For experience, we feel that we can manage our power ourselves. Also, I'm going to ask him, Minister, the national government got some Tintin law. Kim power supply come back, the provincial government, no manage him, no own him, no manage him, or no got. Number one question to me. Number two question to me, when after I'm up in signing the PPA agreement one time, PNG Power, and then my town is still blackout. Tila tubla question me putim lo andu la pekim for the benefit of people of Western Province, especially Olain Bumilo Daru Island. Thank you, Tru.
Minister will state enterprise.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Governor for Western Province for this question. Yes, in the case of Daru, it is true that with the help of both DFET and PNG STP, and together with PNG Power, they were able to come up with an arrangement where our people of Daru can then continue to enjoy uninterrupted power supply from there on. There were some issues regarding the financial modeling and PNG Power's own technical requirements that had to be met by those two gens that they were provided. So all of those, I'm told, have been resolved. In fact, last weekend, last remaining information that was required of PNG STP was provided to PNG Power. And PNG Power are now working on it, and we expect to be able to finalize everything within the next 4 weeks. And the town of Daru can then enjoy unrestricted power access. In relation to the other issue, it's an issue that has been raised on many occasions by our governors and leaders from many provinces. That's a decision that has to be taken by the government of the day as to whether sometime down the path we will look at the important issue of whether we can allow our people, our provincial governments to look at being in charge of their own power requirements. Or that is a decision that will be made by the government eventually. But at this stage, we're looking at the options. Our focus at this stage is to fix the immediate problems and see what we can do given the limited time frame that we have. And then hopefully later on, when things have been stabilized right across the country, we will then look at that issue. But I can point out that for most of those centers who are relying on diesel, the price of diesel is something that is not cannot be controlled by any government of the day, and we still have ongoing issues with getting fuel in across some of the more remote areas, and then trying to provide power and then making money at the same time. So thanks once again to the good governor for Western Province.
The Honourable Member for Wawaria.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Once again, looks all people blow Wawaria. Mr. Speaker, question blow me without notice. I'm going to Deputy Prime Minister blow you me. Na member blong lay na Minister blong lands. Acting Speaker, lands departments are giving law state land. I'm not going to plan the state land. Now, I'm giving all kind leases, agriculture lease, urban development lease, residential lease, all kind lease. I'm giving all people blame me law working business or working activity and up look around. All right, MRA 2. Nothing Minister belong mining 2 emas. Putting was 2 lo this la question. MRA 2 sa give him also talk also mining lease, exploration license, alluvial mining lease, all this la kind too. So question blow me emosem. Suppose one pla area got lease them start finish also agriculture lease start finish or urban development lease start finish. Can MRA be able to give a mining lease over it? First question. Narapla question. Second question, 2 emosem. Imasigat sample court cases decision it come up all state ground. Na all given ground go back long all customary land owners. Mino sawe bat imasigat sample decision because all customary land owners. All togosem court make him decision finish na give him ground go back long all. That's all time people come look long lands department. Ground them still stop long state. So usay them responsible lo update him this la information lo lands department. Court or lands department or land owner or usay. so that then clear information can start lo lands office na miplong all line or some like working development lo ground lo government mipla must get clear information lo ground because now mipla lo working development all customary landowners talk no got court working decision finish na give mipla but mipla come say him lands office them clear title them stuff. So, Mr. Speaker, I am one question and me like a minister of lands answer him. Who said them responsible? Law update him court decisions, law land files, law lands office. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Questions from me. Two questions from me.
The Deputy Prime Minister, Minister for Lands.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Thank you, Law. Member of the Wawaria, Nobla District Blamil ask him this very important question, or clarify more some issues surrounding two question. I'd also like to take this time to acknowledge our young children in the gallery today. Thank you. For the first question, lo agriculture lease na olnapla lease, all ogda state lease, ogda grounds of Osiga one pla lease long this la one pla existing lease tasol, Mr. Deputy Acting Speaker, stop law this la. If there is an agricultural lease, existing na stop lam, all na put him again mining lease on top. The agriculture lease must be revoked first before they all give him one this la mining lease on top long lo first question blue, Mr. Member blo Wawaria. Lo napla question blo court cases. Normally time yumigolo court. Court usad iksim wanam yumigolo court. Time all kisi judgment lo court case. It is pretty simple, Mr. Acting Speaker. Is that all kisi records lo court case na lawyer representing all must salim golo relevant respective department or usad all court one time. And right long all, give him, attach him judgment the court so that if it's lands department, all can update him all records blow. Because we don't have lands officers go and sit at the courthouse to get every judgment that's decided. So I would advise USAT in this particular case or whenever, one Napla case, the time of sim judgment law inside the courthouse, the lawyer responsible must write to the relevant department. One time attach court documents, one time dish in the court, so lands department can use in this court judgment or update him on files blow. I hope that clarifies a question for a good member for Wawaria. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker.
I will recognize member for Rabaul.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. My question is for the Honorable Minister for Justice and Attorney General to answer, and if the Minister for Mining could take note. Minister, through you, Acting Speaker, there is talk again for deep seabed mining to commence again. Mipelas and Pelalo coastal villages. People I know like him through seabed mining lo come back again. Imiraus finished Nautilus mining some years ago. Now the talk ken long all right him ken lo come. My question to the Attorney General, through you, Acting Minister, is whether he would request the state solicitor to go through that agreement which we have been informed, the previous agreement between Nautilus Mining and the state, and to just go through the relevant clauses that tends to preserve the existence of this agreement. And if the state solicitor could advise the Minister for Justice in appropriate language for that proposed agreement or proposed mining activities to just just forget the mining, not to entertain the idea. Because people are, like him. We don't want seabed mining to start again. They started in Solwara 1. Solwara 2 was there for them. And people oppose him with very qualified international scientific advisors against seabed mining. So that's all question below me. I think that is the way to deal with this this proposed mining, seabed mining again. Just forget about it. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker.
The Honourable Minister for Justice.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. Thank you, Long Member Blorabal, Long raising important question. In fact, long morning time, we've been directing or requesting State Solicitor Long provide him advice, and I would like to place this question on the notice paper, and I will certainly come back to Parliament and answer this question. Thank you.
Honourable members, our question time has lapsed. Grievance debate. Governor for NCD.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. Give me a chance long grievance debate. Me got plenty grievances. You play it, sorry. Kind, but today me no like grievance to pass me by more like by me, Mr. Acting Speaker, to talk more about reflection on our journey and our country going forward. Close to by you me 50 years now, in 2 years' time. So, Mr. Acting Speaker, honourable members of the House, all people believe me are looking me start time believe me or reflect to. Well, how we have come, some things that we have achieved and done well, some underachievement, some perhaps failure. It's time for us to reflect so that we, the leaders, now in a privileged position, holding this privilege to be in leadership in Parliament, leading our people going to 50 years, we try to adjust ourselves and change and think about how we can, leave a better legacy or a better story. So today I'm contribute to grievance debate in that respect. I think, Mr. Acting Speaker, I think story blow me, country blow me, plenty good law, plenty am non good too, plenty you may fail, plenty we have underachieved too. But the important thing is we've come, 48 years now, close to 50 years. We all wish we have a magic button, you can press him now, get something come up good, but that's not the reality. Reality in life is that something am easy, plenty am hard. People blame me only harsh to me too. We have to be harsh on ourselves too and push ourselves so we can do better because we are in a privileged position to be members of Parliament. So me too, me privileged me 16 years now inside of Parliament. I try to do my best, seizing the opportunity, the privilege that I have to do what I can in the time that I have. So, encourage me to. We won't be here forever. We won't be members of Parliament forever. So time you make this a privilege. You may maximize him, use him good. Spend whatever time you may got to think about how we can contribute to the highest good of our country and our people. So reflecting on this 48 years journey, Mr. Acting Speaker, me looking for some area belong profession, like to becoming professional in our country. I think we have done exceptionally well. Mr. Acting Speaker and members of Parliament, you may come up doctors, you may come up pilots, engineers, accountants, whatever you, mining engineers. We are among the best in the world in terms of, professional, qualification. Our pilots, they can compete with anybody in the world. Some of them are flying in the Emirates now. Some probably flying, Cathay Pacific before. And so we have done absolutely great in that respect. And we continue to produce high quality, world-class, I believe, professionals too. And that's a big plus, country, we need to keep on going. Perhaps multiply it. Some area too, I think, in terms of sports, perhaps, Mr. Acting Speaker, you may do well or no. Now we got FIFA Women's World Cup. All team blue close to all you go, but Panama or some teams beat them. He got netball, he come up South Africa. World Cup, netball now. All team blue Pepe, so all no go to, all no qualify. But he got good news too. Team blue cricket only qualified last weekend, Mr. Acting Speaker, to go and compete in T20 World Cup next year. Rugby league, you play at Skalim. You may tell me go come now, you also know. But Mr. Speaker, Wambla area, so no sport, I think you may balance league, but today me like focus on the side of business. After 48 years, me looking at him.
Honorable Governor, we have a point of order. Honorable Member for Miduramu.
Governor, I'm la making talk, but me work looking all members who look sanap no go out. Time long grievance debate. Inaplo you me sit down, you me put me out long all grievance debate or no got. You me leader, you me must sit down, now you me put me out, you me are. Thank you, Acting Speaker.
Honorable Governor, before you make any statement, I'd like to acknowledge the point of order raised by a member for Miduramu. Honorable members, I think I've raised this many times. During grievance debate, it's an important time of you members to raise grievances on important issue. I will ask the whole honorable ministers to stay back and take note of what the other members have raised. So, honorable member, your point of order is in order. Honorable Governor.
Yeah, thank you.
You have 5 more minutes.
Speaker. You plan minister, you blast time long, you blast talk me blast me blast backbenches, me blast a stable time. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Me continue long grievance for me or more like reflection. Me talk grievances. Me by complain. Me got plenty complain, but me all in back stop. Me by talk minister na deputy prime minister I'm sorry. Me by go look him na. Some time you me raise him the floor of parliament. Sometimes you me lead us, you me go talk law minister na. We try to solve it, and the outcome is most important than making a name or statement of floor of parliament, or you may para go come. Sometimes we go and see our colleague leaders and we solve things and get things going. So today me more focus on reflection. So Mr. Acting Speaker, I think one big area where me looking and me under achievement blow you me and area blow business. 48 years now me looking, if you look at the area law economy, the economy esteemed leaders of our country, Prime Minister too. We are not participating, to a large extent in the economy in terms of major part of the economy. You look at the big sector of the economy, like mining and oil and gas, and it's still largely foreign owned and controlled. You come to medium sector too, it's still largely foreign owned and controlled. Well, people believe me, all this stuff way. You know, one big problem that you me all leaders now must thinking long. You me advance law, some side, professional side. You may come up engineers and so on. You may advance law sport. You may build infrastructure and so on. But in the area of law economy, which is very important, we have found one thing 48 years on. So you must thinking law how problem where we can solve this big, failure of country blame. How people are supposed to look him now? You may salim boy yet arelo street na mi oklo cross him only go kame. So you may look now. Mr. Milo market here. It's not that market me talk am wrong. We need to trade, Mr. Acting Speaker, in that area, the primary sector, in vegetables. You know, that's culture, way of life. We don't need some expert to come to teach him all this stuff. But we need to progress into the medium, bigger sector too as well. Mr. Acting Speaker, if we look back at our journey 48 years now, some government, supporting people, believe me. Plenty of time you come here, you talk, maybe government not giving money. We have been giving support after support to our people. Before time, Mr. Acting Speaker, if you look at time long, for example, former Governor Bluyumi, former Prime Minister Paiswingti, him starting a scheme called Government Guarantee Scheme. You will like working business, go to bank, sim dinao. Now, suppose you not beg him, but government beg him dinao blue. Guess what happened in the time?
Hello, I'm Tracy Pa with the Midday News. The Minister for Communications and Information Technology, Timothy Mathew, was in India on a bilateral engagement from July 25 to July 28, 2023. He said the trip was necessary for PNG's digital transformation agenda. India is willing to assist PNG's digital transformation with their experience as a leading country in ICT space. He said the Indian government is also committed to increase the quota for ICT scholarship opportunities for Papua New Guineans, building a cyber security hub and access to India's satellite.
I also wish to announce that following my visit, the Indian government has committed the following. Number one is to increase the quota for Papua New Guineans for ICT scholarship opportunities under their flagship iTech scholarship program. Number two is that India's commitment to building of a cyber security hub and cyber capacity building, all under the auspices of our National Cyber Security Center. Note that the FIPIC agreement was that the cybersecurity hub will be a regional establishment for the Pacific region to be based here in Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. So immediate access to an Indian satellite and associated technology for Papua New Guinea's use case on remote sensing and geographic information system, or GIS.
For the first time ever, Butibam Primary School had the first visit from the Lay Fire Service team on Thursday afternoon. Students and staff gathered to learn about the first steps to take during a fire emergency. For example, if they are in a building, they should quickly exit and at the same time notify others of the danger. Students and staff were given the opportunity to ask questions, and a firefighter brought his firefighting protective gear and explained what each item is used for. Deputy Ed teacher Asia Thompson commended the fire service for the awareness, which was well received by the youngsters, who are now well aware of how to respond in case of a fire.
We can commend him all fire service. Very, very helpful, remarkable, the great effort that all working local games lawanes because I'm very helpful kind settlement schools and Butibam Primary School. Big plan, good plus threat, this plan awareness and come up with some helpful tip. The all can go back to the place was fire come up and all can use some tips saving more let long.
MP for Trave, James Nomani, has called on predecessor Raramori to stop laminating over the purported regression in Trave's development trajectory, claiming that this is the impetus for his election petition. Namani said his current focus is on Trave and its people. He said the Trave district administration is engaged in an aggressive agenda to modernize Trave, which includes sealing roads, providing electricity, and improving the quality of life with clean water and modern housing.
Waramori is at liberty to comment and provide constructive criticism as a senior statesman and former member for Chuave, and I take it all on board. I'm answerable to the people of Chuave, and I don't have any ill feelings towards Wera. I think his time would be better spent on focusing on himself, on retirement, on other parts of life. It's not all about politics, but once again, he's free to do what he wants to do. So I welcome criticism from him, and I welcome any statement from the people of Chuave, because I'm answerable to them. And anybody who's not happy with how I've been performing as the member for Chuave is at liberty to contest the elections in 2027 to challenge me.
A suspect in the July 29, 2023 murder of a 40-year-old man in Asura Bay, LLG of Raikos District, Medang Province, has surrendered as a result of prompt police action. On August 1st, the suspect turned himself into police at Tehlig police station. He is now being held in custody at Medang's Jomba police station, charged for murder. The deceased, Camilleos Halawi from Dumbai village in Yanguru, fought with the suspect over a bush knife that belonged to the deceased. According to Medang Provincial Police Commander Superintendent David Sinai Jr., there were early complaints of the suspect threatening the victim before the crime took place. He added that the suspect killed Alawai by slashing his neck in the evening of July 29, 2023. Halawai was buried the next day. His murder was reported to police on August 1st. Arrests for additional suspects in the murders are pending. Human remains have been found nearly a week after a defense helicopter ditched into the seas off the North Queensland coast. 4 men were on board when the Taipan chopper went down in the White Sunday last Friday. Remote-controlled underwater vehicles have located a debris field, including parts of the cockpit.
They were determined to bring their boys home, and now they're one step closer to doing just that.
The loss of our people is an absolute tragedy, and all of us have taken that pretty hard. Lieutenant
Maxwell Nugent, Captain Daniel Lyon, Warrant Officer Joseph Philip Laycock and Corporal Alexander Nags were on board the MRH-90 Taipan helicopter when it ditched into the ocean last Friday night. Military and emergency crews have been searching day and night for the 4 missing men, presumed dead. Yesterday, this remotely operated underwater vehicle uncovered a debris field 40 metres below the surface.
Sadly, I can confirm unidentified human remains have also been observed in this location.
Also discovered the helicopter's cockpit.
The debris field is consistent with a catastrophic high impact.
The black box is yet to be located. The men's remains can't be identified until more of the wreckage is recovered. Vessels with specialist equipment have been brought in to assist.
It is important to collect as much of the debris as we can so we can fully understand how this incident occurred.
The men's families have been informed. Shock, hurt and disbelief still being felt right across the Defence Force.
I'm a father of kids that are the same age as my soldiers, so certainly everything I do I see through that lens that we need to ensure that we set our people up for success in the safest possible environment.
The Defence Force keen to ensure if anyone, a veteran or serving member or their family needs help, it's available through Open Arms on 1800 011 046.
Families of girls allegedly sexually abused by a Queensland childcare worker have hired lawyers and are seeking compensation for their trauma. The opposition is blaming the state government for failing to implement child safety recommendations made in 2 reports delivered more than 5 years ago.
The sickening allegations have shocked parents across the country. 91 girls under 10 allegedly assaulted more than 1,600 times by a childcare worker over a 15-year period from 2007 to 2022.
It does cause you to question whether
every child in Australia is safe at the moment.
The accused, a 45-year-old man from the Gold Coast, an avid photographer, paid to keep children safe. Instead, police allege he exploited them, took thousands of photos and posted on the dark web. 10 centres in Brisbane are involved, 1 in Sydney and 1 overseas. Now several parents are seeking justice and compensation for damages.
Their children and themselves have now been impacted by complex trauma. They've been subjected to abuse.
The opposition is furious and says the state government has only implemented 28 of 81 recommendations from a 2017 report into keeping children safe and a review of the blue card system.
Parents will be asking the question, are these things still able to happen? Is this a priority for the government?
We will leave no stone unturned if there's something that we can do to ensure this never happens again.
In the meantime, lawyers will investigate if the childcare centres involved breached their duty of care, what policy and procedures were in place, and were they followed.
Now in sports, runners-up for last year's Pepsi Capital Rugby Union competition Premier Division Grand Final, Kramer Asuno brothers go into finals this Saturday with confidence after suffering defeat in the hands of Harlequins last year. Brothers coach Joe Kautu said the team has learned from the defeat. Heading into the finals, Coach Kautu said the team has polished up on areas they were lacking in. Brothers play defeats Rugby Union, who have been impressive all throughout the season. The match is shaping up with a cracker, with both sides having hard working towards and fast finishing backs. The winner proceeds to a bye for the grand finals. The loser plays the winner for the Harlequins and the University Piggies match in the preliminary finals next weekend. The Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews is said to snub 2 powerful parliamentarian injuries looking into the controversial cancellation of the 2026 Commonwealth Games. The state government is still being questioned over how it came to the conclusion the Games would cost more than $6 billion after initially selling it to Victorians as a $2.6 billion project.
Building tunnels in Melbourne's west.
Yeah, it's great.
Westgate Tunnel project is $4 billion over budget and years behind schedule, but it is going ahead, unlike the Commonwealth Games, which the government scrapped over cost blowouts.
This is absolutely unconscionable.
Daniel Andrews and his team are facing twin state and federal parliamentary probes into the cancellation. But as to the question of whether the Premier or his deputy will front the state inquiry...
No, this is an upper house inquiry.
A rule called exclusive cognizance means the state's upper house has no power to compel MPs from the lower house.
Could you think of something so contemptuous of the Victorian people who are concerned about the financial compensation and damages we're now going to have to pay?
They chose an upper house committee. They need to deal with the confines or the opportunities that are presented by the avenue that they chose.
Even before the Games were culled, a federal inquiry had concerns about whether the infrastructure would be built in time. It now wants to hear from the Premier about why it's been cancelled.
They have to front up and explain that. They have to be accountable for that decision and they have to be transparent.
State MPs and officials are not compelled to appear at Senate inquiries. The Premier's office only received his invitation this morning.
Why has the Deputy Premier chosen to cut and run by refusing to confirm that she will appear before the Select Committee?
It's just basically a political stunt, would be my view. I mean, I think this is just all about trying to call witnesses in front of cameras and a bit of theatrics.
Even without the Premier's parliamentary performance, the fact this inquiry won't report until 2025 gives the opposition a chance to keep this issue well and truly alive. The key is to find out how and why the government got the cost of the Games so horribly wrong.
PNG Kickboxing Federation successfully hosted its corporate dinner yesterday evening to raise funds for their international championship fight in the Miami, Florida, United States of America. The event was held at the Day Cinti restaurant at Vision City, with each table going for 5,000 kina. PNG Kickboxing is looking to participate in an international event for the first in post-COVID. PNG Kickboxing Federation President Stanley Ed Hunter Nandex auctioned one of the World Championship title belts. PNG Sports Federation made a successful bid for the belt for 50,000 kina. Governor for NTD Powers Bakop and Minister for Sports Don Polio was a special guest. They shared similar sentiments that sports demands attention from leaders given the youth population in the country. The World Championship title fight is scheduled for August 12, 2023. The team began their travel for Miami, Florida next week. 10 fighters will be traveling. Among them are 2 female fighters. Thanks for your company. Join us at 6 for more details.
Unfairly, because he is the incumbent minister. But I was quite surprised to learn that this problem had accumulated over the last 50 years, and nobody in Papua New Guinea took any notice of it. You may just larimem na also house morta lo plesia. Morta is ting, all rafta walk lo brook, floor is ting, na house mok lo bagarap, and nobody bothered to maintain it. Now, this is unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. We cannot run a country where we allow our infrastructure to continually degrade without anyone paying attention to it. We recently launched our MTDP4, and I'm wondering to myself, how much attention are we paying to maintaining existing infrastructure? And I've just given us an example of our energy infrastructure. How many of our wharves are totally degraded? I know the Wewak wharf is degraded, and that was built by the Australian government. We just recently replaced our hospital. That was also, the previous one was built by the Australian colonial administration. And as I use the example of ECPIC, I wonder how many other provinces are in the same boat that we are in. And I wonder if the level of neglect, and I don't want to blame anyone, I just want to accept that this is where we are. We've discussed law and order constantly on the floor, and again, I want to sort of take a look at it and say, perhaps that's the same thing we've done with law and order. We've neglected it for so long, it is now piled up onto this parliament. I heard this morning the discussion over jobs, and that's something that we've been talking about for a while. I wonder how long we have neglected that. And I come back and I wonder about our strategic focus, not just as a government, and I don't want to crucify the National Executive Council, the executive arm of the government. I think the failure is across all 3 arms. We're just not paying attention. And then that begs the question, whose job is it to pay attention to this issue? Is it the executive government? Is it the parliament? Or is it the judiciary? Which arm of government is supposed to take responsibility over this? Where does the vision come from to then direct the rest of the mechanisms of state to focus? And as we do that, I hear the discussions around private sector and government, and I'm beginning to wonder to myself, are we as government crowding out the private sector? Where is the space for the private sector? Is the private sector limited to being a client to the state as opposed to being a partner to the state? I see private sector that is doing very well are those in the private sector that are lining up to get government contracts. The other part of the private sector, those who are not lining up to get government contracts, well, they're struggling. But the ones who are getting government contracts, I note in the last parliament they were doing very well. And I note in this parliament they're still doing very well. What about the rest of the private sector? Those that actually service our people and do not apply for a single government contract. Those that are, for example, that are in the forestry sector. What incentives are we going to place in the budget so that we can make it more attractive for them to go downstream? Have we incorporated any of that into our medium-term planning? If we haven't, is there opportunity for us to amend it so that we build financial incentives because we want the jobs? We have the resource, which is the forestry sector. We have the resource, which is the tuna. Mind you, $7 billion worth of tuna is taken out of our waters every year. How much are we investing? What are the incentives we are providing to the private sector that is in the tuna sector so that more of that $7 billion, $7 billion is 28 billion kina. Ladies and gentlemen of this honorable house, that's not a small number. That's a number that should excite all of us. That's more money than what we are getting out of LNG and mining. But our discussions tend to be centered and focused around the non-renewable sector. Yet, there is still tuna. We have 18% of the world's tuna in our waters. How much are we investing there? What plans do we have? And, relevant ministers who might be listening in, I'm not criticizing you. I am simply recognizing something that I believe we have neglected as a country over time. And I am drawing the line between the energy sector. I don't even want to go to roads yet because our roads are collapsing as we build new ones. And again, it comes back to the issue of, are we paying attention? Is it a strategic focus? Who is responsible for it? So I'm just sharing this with all of you because I was quite stunned to find out. And for me personally, I worked in the health sector in my province and I understood what had happened there. I am now being forced to deal with the energy sector in my province, and suddenly I realize it is a 50 to 60-year problem. It didn't just happen yesterday. So I'm sharing with all of you fellow leaders because my wisdom is limited in how we resolve this issue going forward. It is essentially an appeal to all of you, and it is an appeal to the intelligentsia within our country to say, and I'm appealing to the private sector, one of the things that I am disappointed with is that if we created the right conditions for private sector, for every kina the government invests, the private sector can invest 10 kina. But because we crowd them out, the private sector's 10 kina is not available to us. The energy of the private sector is not brought to bear on our problems because we think the state can do everything. And I find that it is something we need to consider. It is something that we need to deal with. And it is an opportunity that is missing. Just like we squeeze our women out of our development agenda, not by design, but by default. And just like we are now doing with the private sector, we are squeezing them out. Everybody that is within this country, and not only that, we have to stop being afraid of foreigners and foreign investment. We've got to become more friendly to investment. We've got to decide if we want the jobs, if we want the economy, or do we want to chase everybody away. Those decisions, that leadership, needs to be made by those of us who sit on this floor. And once again, this is me appealing because of something I just learned recently. Mr. Acting Speaker, I thank the House.
Honourable Member for Jimmy.
Acting Speaker, me just like talk a couple of points na mission down. At least me am a maslong. Some blood leaders to make him good. All towns play you mean. I like talk thank you. At least towns semi clean. Basics and make him me plama mas to go inside the town na look him I'm nice, I'm clean and nice, and people like him, and me like talk, thank you. Me continue to make him this blood. Though I'm like something that's all. Me welcome him all visitors, welcome him all investors, and make him good. Now you can put him more money, now you can still talk save long all sampler, online, look out him all properties, now, paint him or make him sampler something look good long all towns flow you can encourage him all or make him so that all that towns flow you lo country look nice, look clean, good, and by attract him all man. Big plus something you talk that's all. Place flow sleep flow you, get up flow you, good pla, good pla. I'm also one, me talk and finish maybe 5 minutes time by me finish. So not apply at least you must grab him all green gold mining blow you or coffee plantations. You must put him money go on kirapim, cocoa, copra, forestry, all this plus something you can talk past them. Maybe all mining site you good pla, at least some all big pla projects, poplar pipeline by come up next few months, few years, I'm good pla. That's all agriculture sector. You must encourage him long all plantations must come back. Now you can put him good amount of money so that the minimum wages, all coffee pickers, all cocoa pickers, all he can kiss him, all he can amamas. Now all he can make him, boost him. Country revenue collection must come low. You can balance him out. Maybe he can come low non-renewable resource. Now renewable resource, now all cash crops now. Even all garden produce too, you can look him, find him better markets now, all he can work him sales now, all this plug and something. So market flow now, market channel belong, market him, and he can come up. Some all towns inside the country, let him, all money can sell him lo back. Easy, come sell him that's all now, all he can go. Now line inside the market, all he look out him long and all he can distribute, sell him and give him long. All man and by good plan. Me at also personally meeting also. Thank you lo you pla. Make him display connect PNG missing links. Missing links Jimmy Serim one time 7 pla border. Long 7 pla border or 7 pla electrite. At least me pla sim some pla money. Na me pla give him priority all roads now all Arabla infrastructures. I me like talk thank you. Good play investment that you may make him. Good play investment you may make him. Good play connect. You may connect him all provinces na district one them roads. That's all. One play legally talk look out them. Suppose you may continue long. Give him all man free and outs like school fee, health care, dead bodies. Now all Arabla list you name me go down. All by continue lo salim boy stop. All by non up go back na plan him copy, cocoa, copra, all this like and something by non all non up. All put him all picnic go school, all he go check him governor. Governor give him all kiss him all come check him long open member. Open member kiss him all government too give him subsidy in all Arabla made him. So we making our own people become lazy. Long come up him. Or some sit down lo ground long all na come up him or legally something lo grow him. Now finally, plenty all business courses, all teachers college, all nursing college, sampler all go lo proper way na only make him. Sampler only no go proper way. You may not lo stop him, that's all. You may let him all now, all pine him way lo fix him now all come up long. Now stop long proper way. Now only come up him kind college now one him yellow country. You must really check him good. Plenty all business colleges me pay him school fee long all mangi now all make him stop even all yet he finish him school non up start him business too. Good bla business also work him all by sit down all day lo play mobile phone that's all. Sawe all kiss him big pla. He win him, all Arabla sawe lo come up him money. Sawe lo spend him money, all sawe na sawe blo kamapim mani oli no sawe. So this pla some bla areas me lookim. I mean, like say one time you play at least, you play giving me 5-10 minutes, good play at least. Me spending half of this play time, na me like sit down. Thank you long. Giving me time to talk.
The Honourable Member for Gumini.
Thank you. Acting Speaker, lo give the opportunity to contribute to grievance debate. Grievance debate, I'm focused on the relevance of education in the country. Our education system, meeting also, threat. Why meeting also? Because the education system that we have is producing a few elites at the expense of majority who the system puts out as dropouts. Now, are these dropouts as the so-called dropouts, do they have the necessary skills to fall back into the society? That is the question that me like addressing. Me grew up, I was born in the 1960s, and I grew up all those times prior to independence. And all over Gumini, or everywhere in the Simbu, all the housemen or tribes, all the tribes or clans were required to have a houseman, something called a houseman, an institution. And in that houseman, we were taught to live our lives on our land. Lo tenem ground, lo walk garden, lo respecting all people, how lo talk to all man, how to be diplomatic. All those skills were taught to us in the houseman. And the difference between the houseman and the current education system is that the houseman was focused on making the majority of the young men and women to be successful in the society. Of course, one or two that grow up in the houseman, they become misfits or come up bigot, but the majority were able to fall back into the society and fall back on the land, tenem ground law. Now that was a society that I grew up in the 1960s. But now they introduced the education system. When you really look at it, we produce a few elites, but the majority of our citizens have been pushed out as dropouts, and there is no support system. I take note of the grievance debate by the Honourable Governor for NCD. So we are doing well in some areas, like we are producing some doctors, very qualified doctors, lawyers, pilots. But in a class of 30 students who are attending elementary schools today, how many of these would pass out of the as doctors and lawyers and all this? You see, my concern is to produce all those few elites. A lot of the classmates that started off during the elementary school, and by you finding all them all go out or some dropouts. Now, so could we come up with a system where our education is targeted at the majority of our people, our citizens, to equip them with the required or the necessary skills for them to fall back on the land? Let me give you an example. You make a ground, you make and grow, can something, vegetables, fruits, everything. But how many of these people, or how many of our people are engaged in the food industry, or fast food outlets? The problem is our people do not know how to prepare the food to sell in the fast food outlets. And that is why a lot of the fast food outlets have been taken over by all Narbalan, all Asians. Huh? That is because we don't have the skills. We don't have the know-how to prepare all these things, all the food, to sell in the fast food outlets. I would like to, my view is that our education system should target 80 to 90% of the dropouts. The system is pushing them out, so that they are equipped with the necessary skills to go back on the land, to live off their land. Just imagine, 97% of the land is still owned by the customary landowners. And for the last 48 years, only 3% of state owned them, supporting the economy of the country. But what if we make equip our people to go back on the land and turn or work on the 97% of the land that is available to them? You talk about the employment, unemployment problems. You don't have to worry about that, because when our kids go out of school possessed with the required skills and knowledge to go back and work on the land, then you don't have to worry about the employment, unemployment problems that we have in this country. We don't have to worry about the law and order problem, because they would have something to do. Right now, what's happening is the system is pushing out all these people as dropouts. So we have a group of frustrated youths in our society who have no skills to survive in their own land, society blow. And that is why we will continue to have problems. So that is my legally thinking by me. But if we can look at directing our focus to educating a lot of our people to fall back into the society, to be responsible citizens, and that we would achieve a lot in terms of what we want to do for our people. I'm all legally talk as well. The relevance of education in this country, what we have adopted or what we have copied from the system was meant for the first world. You go school, go to paid employment, sit down the office. We should be more focused on an education system that should train our people to be skilled, to be entrepreneurs. We should look at a system that should teach our people to be business people, to work up the land, to invest their resources, na come up successful business people. Right now, system blow me to teach him online, logo, na come up workman. I went to school thinking that maybe I go to school, maybe I go sit down and work money, na logo them all parents blow me. But what if you don't get a job because there's not enough jobs? So what's happening? This is legally talk. I'm legally talk, but it touches on the foundation of our society. Now, if we get this right, we will go a long way. The Prime Minister said in his mantra, Papua New Guinea will become the richest black Christian nation. That is possible because 97% of the land of the country is owned by the people. And if we can get our people to, or upskill our people to go knowing possessing the required skills and knowledge, to how to attend or exploit the land, and harvest the resources on the land, meeting us and we go a long way through. So thank you, Acting Speaker, make some legally time contribute to grievance debate.
The Honourable Governor for Oro.
Acting Speaker, for recognizing the people of Oro, I wish to commend all those who went before me and presented very succinct debates. I especially want to commend the member for Ramu, Middle Ramu, who made a very good point. But I also want to point out that oftentimes members of parliament, just for the record, do have urgent business they need to attend to immediately and then return. So that does happen from time to time. It doesn't mean we're not listening to all debates being presented here. Many of our ministers are very busy. They also step out briefly to sign documents. So just to clarify for our people who are watching. My debate is on two matters, or my grievance debate, but they're all aligned to the same issue, the issue of climate change, an issue that is very real, very grim, and confronting us today. And I feel we need to take note of. In fact, on July the 27th, in New York, Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, coined a term that it is no longer climate, or it is no longer global warming, what we're facing. It is actually global boiling. That's where we are today. And this is what I wish to speak about. But before I talk about this, I want to just make a few comments in relation to the subject of seabed mining. And I was quite disturbed to hear the Minister for Mining advise that the company, Nautilus Limited, that had come here, convinced us to pay them $300 million US against the advice of the state solicitor, then disappeared, rebranded itself in Canada, is now making its way back to PNG. This is very disturbing. And I understand that the minister has mentioned he has been speaking to them. So perhaps he has a strategy here to recoup that $300 million US, and if so, this is good to hear. But if he doesn't, then I believe he should develop such a strategy, and he should do so with our Attorney General, and we should vigorously pursue this $300 million US that we just gifted away to a company that has not carried out this type of activity anywhere in the world. In fact, seabed mining has not been undertaken in any part of this world. And here I want to point out to especially Yublal Nambisline, Yublal coastal communities, Yublal leader and a member of all coastal communities. If you don't stop this, if you don't watch this with critical concern, then you're failing your people. I stood against this. On the 18th of October, 2012, at the Holiday Inn, we received a petition with 22,000 signatures from coastal citizens who were very concerned about what would happen if this horrible activity were to be undertaken, an activity never undertaken before in the history of this world, and not been undertaken anywhere else, especially in the developed nations. In fact, the developed nations have banned seabed mining or have spoken up against it because experts, scientists, have stated that the unknowns are too great to ignore. Especially the areas referred to as the pelagic areas of the deep sea, where life forms, critical life forms for the ocean, begin their journey. The unknowns are too great. But we, a developing nation that does not have the wherewithal, the scientific wherewithal, to be able to mitigate any negative repercussions from such an activity, we willingly embrace this activity and said, yes, come and dig our seabed, do whatever you want, and here's $300 million too, while you're at it. And no, let's not listen to our coastal communities, even 22,000 of them that signed a petition that was delivered. Let's not listen to them. What arrogant behavior. And now they're coming back again. And we would be absolute fools if we let them in. They already conned us once. Shame on them. But if they con us twice, well, shame on us. Shame on all of us. This is shameful. Can't believe this. So I want to put on notice here, all Papua New Guineans should be concerned. In fact, all citizens of this world. There are two most serious threats to humanity today: nuclear fallout and global boiling. They're going to affect us. In fact, when Antonio Guterres made those comments, June and July were recorded as the hottest months ever recorded in the world's history since recording of such things began. And worse to come. Greece raging with fire. Algeria, floods. Many other parts of this world reeling from serious environmental disruptions that are caused by human activity. We have to be concerned about this. I want to caution our Minister for Mining and say, and our government, let's be very careful. Let's be very careful with our coastal communities, their oceans, our oceans, the source of our life. I'm so glad that Nautilus wound up and left. I was one of those that contributed as much as I possibly could to making sure they left. And now to hear that they're coming back, to take a second bite at the cherry, so to speak, shame on us if we let this happen. This is not Take Back PNG. The other issue that I wish to speak of, also related to climate change or global boiling, is that of a recent event that took place in Bonn, a conference, a UNFCCC conference that took place in Bonn from the 5th to the 15th of June. It's quite interesting. Half of our PNG delegation at the UNFCCC climate change conference that took place in Bonn consisted of foreigners working with or for the Coalition of Rainforest Nations. We had 25 people there, and 12 of these were foreigners. But what do they know about our country to be there to present about our country, our environment? Who appointed them? Do we not have our own experts? This is shameful. In fact, there were pictures going around of the official PNG delegation at this important UNFCCC climate change conference showing an Italian woman and an American man sitting there with the PNG flag, speaking on behalf of you and I and our people. Shameful. Are we not a sovereign nation that we can't send our own people to attend these very important meetings? That we have to send foreigners? What does that say about us? One of those foreigners we know very well, a gentleman by the name of Kevin Conrad, CEO of the Coalition of Rainforest Nations. And he is managing an online carbon credit sales scheme. And he is keen to get control of all our coalition of Rainforest Nation member countries' carbon credits to be sold under this scheme.
Honorable Governor Foro, your counterpart Governor for Morobe has a point of order.
Point of order, my respectful Governor, sorry. The standing order is very clear. You don't make mention of people who are here, their names. You can say somebody or this kind describe them, but don't call their names because they're not here to defend themselves. So the standing order is very clear on this point. Not that I'm supporting this guy, this person that is referring to, no.
Honorable Governor, your point of order is on order unless if there is an allegation made against that person will not be allowed to be made here on the floor of Parliament. But if it is in regarding to a statement which the country has to know, I would allow the Governor to make the statement.
So, may I mention his name or not?
Honorable Governor, if you have an allegation against her...
No, I do have allegations against him. I don't have one. I have several allegations against him.
Honorable Governor, you only have 1 minute, so I think you...
1 minute?
Yes.
I got 10. Anyhow, this person is out there. I won't mention Kevin Conrad's name again, but this person is out there representing the Coalition of Rainforest Nations and purporting to represent Papua New Guinea, and we are allowing him to bundle all of our forest resources and sell them on this platform, carbon credits, of which his organization will return 10%. Do the forest people of this nation know about this? Do any of you know about this? That these people are out there representing you and your people, speaking on your behalf? Well, that's what's happening. Half of our delegation were at this very important meeting representing you, and you didn't even know any of them. They're not your citizens. Some of them never even came here.
Honorable Governor, your 10 minutes have left. The Honorable Governor for Enga.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker or Acting Speaker. Me too, joining honorable colleague long debate today. My debate will be centered around elections. Mr. Acting Speaker, the first time I entered politics was an election in 1982. 82 now, coming up now. Election, I'm going to next level. Election, I'm supposed to not give my attention to election. It can get violent. It can come up very corrupt. Now leaders on this parliament, by look him. Sembla line, you know, like him, or syndrome on this parliament, bakama. Lo maintain him democracy. It is important for government to make sure that he protect him process for election. From my experience, me looking more my last election, I think like me play next level there, sky finish. We are eating the front pages for negative things. Now, plenty long all display me start lo immediate leaders immediate. Process to electing all levels of leaders. So me like taking this time long, asking government, look. How much electoral commission doesn't go back to assess and fix the issues? Only no stable running election, that's all. When there are issues with the election process, you got deficiencies, you got kind issues, you come up with election and work from all tool of fixing, album government.
Honorable Governor, we have a point of order from member for hearing.
Oh. Sir, good Governor, very interesting debate and very important debate. But unfortunately, Acting Speaker, I believe this is a subject that is before a parliamentary committee, special parliamentary committee on elections, which is at the phase of preparing its report. Perhaps this very good debate would be reserved for subsequent sitting when that report is tabled. That is the standing orders. Thank you.
Honourable member, this agreement debate time that won't be necessary. A member can raise a comment if he wishes to. So I'll ask the governor to continue on with this debate. The committee or whoever the chairman can take note of the debate also, that it can be presented in the reports when it comes. Honourable Governor.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. So me feeling more electoral commission. And to got responsibility long time to recommend him some blessings or strong in law. Since me work all this election and since on this parliament, we know got one time. Me look in electoral commission like strategy or something. So me like him government blame me take note on this plan. All one of kind line me got long this plan office play critical office. They have a duty to ensuring that we have fair and transparent elections in this country. Now, in my case, in Enga, as I said, me observing plenty time. Me observing plenty time. Also, I'm only know trying on fixing issues. So now me like on next level meet, okay? We're getting away with it. Last election only, we are candidates just go in there and pick up boxes, you know, don't like them all. Auto employ me now, kisime usat give no right. Election ballot papers employ 1-1. Citizen employ 1 play electorate. Not play electorate me look at every year, every election. The nation knows, the system knows how corrupt that electorate is all the time. No one play action come up. Now me about me feeling was a more collude. Using agencies of the government. Instead long straighten system now working long law, people in these offices, the Electoral Commission, police, army, one in kind line, they are supposed to be enforcing and maintaining the laws of this country. Me looking for some oligo compromise. Country we're trying to lose in every direction. One in time, by me trying not to be responsible. So acting Speaker, me presume of the government. Now I'm 1 year after elections now. Acting Speaker, the place play you know what one place somebody say come up and now all cook him all ballot boxes, ballot papers. Is somebody doing any research on that? Is there any follow-up? What the issues are? It's a very critical thing that me must look at this plan. I think government must talk survey along all these agencies, working work, long all straight. Long appointment of officials. People will system yet sabokim. Now, you may long put him name go. You're lucky if you get yours in. There's everybody going with a certain price, huh? So, leaders, let's fix the election process. Let's appoint credible people, credible persons to these offices. Put him on good man, make him country, become a good country. Behind him law and a process, serious about this country, making it better and good plan of future blow you me. Now begin. You mean you can put him on man, you go inside long all display important institutions of government because we feel that they will be helping us to achieve certain agendas for ourselves. If we are incapable of doing it ourselves, bring him on neutral line or sit down all display, this level office here, critical of maintaining democracy in this country. Mr. Acting Speaker, me governor so maski or man la rosi me system la rosi me you don't have go influence in ogara kona so me come yet. But suppose you look at open seats. Legally can corruption you can bagar up him or good leaders blame. So now 1 year now, I think Speaker, me concerned that the Electoral Commission and even the police itself, security forces you meet, okay? Okay, see allows the run nothing here. Or finding work. One block candidate offering more some legal money, or sidestep now working work well, all this line. We are seeing it. We know it's happening. Who's going to fix it? So thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker, for giving me opportunity.
Honourable members, I interrupt the grievance debate. Our grievance debate lapsed. The Honourable Treasurer, the Acting Leader of Government Business.
Thank you.
Honourable Minister, may you resume your seat. Honourable members, the question is that the grievance debate be noted. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Before I table my motion for adjournment, may I just quickly clarify that Treasury has warranted a minimum of 1 million, part of our 2 million intentions, to the Special Parliamentary Committee chaired by Governor Bird for reviewing the 2022 national general elections, and we look forward to the tabling of their report. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And before I table my motion, can I also take this opportunity to thank all members of this House for their attendance at Parliament this week, which of course has contributed to a most productive session with government business. Thank you to all members for their passionate contributions to question time, their detailed commentary, debating ministerial statements, and lastly, their attendance at both government and opposition caucus meeting. Have a restful week, everyone, and on that note, may I now move that this Parliament do adjourn until Tuesday, 8th of August 2023 at 10 o'clock a.m. Thank you.
Honourable members, the question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Ayes have it. Honourable member, I now adjourn Parliament until Tuesday, 8 August 2023 at 10 o'clock a.m.